Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and other high-ranking officials have been found dead after their helicopter crashed in a foggy mountainous region of the country's northwest, according to state media.
에브라힘 라이시 이란 대통령과 여러 고위 관리들이 탑승한 헬리콥터가 짙은 안개 속에 이란 북서부 지역 산악지대에 추락하면서 전원 사망했다고 국영 언론이 보도했습니다. Now they have gone into 5 days of mourning, I believe. Tell us more.
This is a very big deal. He's the second in command, as it were, under Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Yeah.
And it comes at a time where we have so much unrest in the Middle East. So it's when it happened, I think it was a big shock around the world, not just for Iran, but everybody was like, "What does this mean? Has he really died?" But yes, it's been confirmed there in this period of mourning. It was not just him; it was also the foreign minister, and as well as the governor of Iran's East Azerbaijan province, with other officials and bodyguards. So the first president, will take over as long as the supreme leader agrees. That should happen relatively soon, and there should be a new presidential election within 50 days.
Yes, I believe it's going to be next month. And around the end of next month.
We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah.
This is whenever a leader dies in sudden circumstances, I think a country is thrown into turmoil, and especially at this time when we're dealing with so much pressure all around the Middle East, it feels like this is a very sensitive situation.
Absolutely. Let's look at high-ranking officials. What does that mean?
If you're high-ranking, you're top level. You're up there. For example, I would consider the president of a country, the prime minister, the vice president, the deputy prime minister, the foreign minister, the secretary of state. All those are high-ranking officials.
Ranking, of course, means, there's...
It's your level.
Yeah, your level.
Status.
In number 1, number 2, number 3, those are your ranks.
Coming from the military. So we think of a high-ranking military official would be the admiral, for example, or a major general.
그렇죠. 우리도 외래어로 이렇게 랭킹 1위, 랭킹 2위 이런 식으로 말하잖아요. 그게 이 단어인데요. R-A-N-K-I-N-G, ranking. 앞에 high가 붙어서요. 높은 순위에 있다. 그게 바로 고위가 되겠고요. officials는 관리가 되겠습니다. 그래서 아까 얘기한 이제 장관뿐만 아니라 그 외에도 많은 정부 부처의 고위 관리들도 함께 했었는데 안타까운 이런 사고가 있었습니다. Looking at how the weather was, it looks like it was very foggy.
Yeah, meaning there was lots of fog, and fog is that weather condition when the air becomes opaque, where you cannot see sometimes your hand in front of your face. It can be that foggy.
foggy, 굉장히 흐릿하다, 안개가 자욱하다라는 뜻입니다. Well, here's the headline again. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and other high-ranking officials have been found dead after their helicopter crashed in a foggy, mountainous region of the country's northwest, according to state media. Now here's our next headline.
Blue Origin's tourism rocket has launched passengers to the edge of space for the first time in nearly 2 years, ending a hiatus prompted by a failed uncrewed test flight.
네. 미국 우주 탐사기업 블루 오리진의 관광 로켓이 과거 무인 시험 비행 실패로 인한 공백기를 뒤로 하고 거의 2년 만에 승객을 태우고 우주로 발사됐습니다. Tell us more.
Well, this is the 7th crewed flight that Blue Origin have had, the NS-25. It launched from a private ranch in West Texas. And it's the first time in 2 years after that problem that they had with that uncrewed flight. They had the oldest person to reach the edge of space. 90 years old Ed Dwight was on board.
And he also became the first black American.
And congratulations to him. I mean, it's incredible what they can do nowadays. They went at more than 3 times the speed of sound. That's something like 2,000 miles an hour, which is, we're talking over 3,000 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
It went past the Kármán line, which is 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface. That's the edge of space. And they got to be weightless for a few minutes. They got to see some amazing views of Earth, and then they went back down again.
네, 그렇습니다. 우주로 발사됐다는 게 엄밀히 말하자면은 우주의 가장자리인데요. 지구의 대기권 그리고 외계 사이에 있는 이 카르멘 라인이라는 경계선입니다. 고도 100km 상에 있고요. 그거를 영어로는 edge of space라고 표현을 했네요.
Yes, so the edge of space is that that little area, that 100 kilometers above the Earth,
Yeah.
where the atmosphere meets no atmosphere.
Right.
And it's the point designated where you say, this is, if you leave this, if you go any further, you will be in space as opposed to within Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, and edges. You can have the edges of a piece of paper, for
Exactly,
example.
yes.
You use it here and there. 가장자리라는 뜻의 edge 그리고 space가 같이 들어가서요. 우주의 가장자리, the edge of space. What about the word hiatus?
First of all, I love the word hiatus. I love the
Yeah.
sound of it. I love the spelling. Hiatus. And it means a pause,
Yeah.
basically. That's all it is, a pause of whatever it is. I don't think Morning Special ever goes on hiatus.
I don't think it's ever been on a hiatus.
No, because we're
No.
broadcasting, even if it's recorded, it's broadcast 7 days a week. But you have, for example, some variety shows or some dramas will go on hiatus for 6 months and then come back with a new series. If you're working, you might need to go on hiatus. If you're pregnant, for example, it's Couples Day. Let's say you're having a baby, you take maternity or paternity leave and you say, sorry, I'm on hiatus.
Pop stars, they also take a break sometimes.
Exactly.
They're on hiatus.
We've got BTS in the military, they're on hiatus
They
because
are.
of it.
네, 이렇게 be on hiatus라고 하면은 지금 공백기를 갖고 있다, 쉬고 있다 이런 의미가 되겠습니다. 자, 여기서는 그 우주 비행을 얘기하고 있죠. It was on hiatus for 2 years, but it successfully was launched recently. Well, here's the headline again. Blue Origin's tourism rocket has launched passengers to the edge of space for the first time in nearly 2 years, ending a hiatus prompted by a failed uncrewed test flight. Okay, and here's our final headline.
France has issued scratch-and-sniff postage stamps that smell like a bakery to celebrate the country's artisan baguette.
프랑스가 자국의 정통 바게트를 기념하기 위해 긁으면은 이 빵 냄새가 나도록 만들어진 특별한 우표를 발행했습니다. I'd love to get my hands on one of these.
Yes, and if I did, I'd say ooh la la, as they do
Yeah.
in France. This is quite fun. It's a little bit expensive. It costs you 1.96 euros.
Okay.
But it is beautiful. It's got a baguette decorated with a red, white, and blue ribbon, which is, of course, the colours of the French national flag. And it has a bakery scent. I don't know about you, Sue, but when I was a kid, we had these scratch and sniff cards.
Yeah,
They'd
I
sometimes
remember
be given
those.
away in magazines or in kids' comics.
Yeah.
And you would scratch it and it would have whatever fragrance or sometimes bad smell. So in this case, they've used these micro capsules in the ink, and that creates this bakery fragrance. And it's been launched on the day of Saint Honoré, who is the patron saint of bakers and pastry chefs in France. And I have to say that the baguette really is the symbol of France. If you asked
Yeah.
anyone to name 3 things that the French are famous for, I'd probably say it's berets, the Eiffel Tower, and baguettes.
Yeah. I was going to say beret, baguettes, and wine.
That too. Possibly cheese.
And cheese.
And garlic.
Yeah,
And
so
onions.
many things actually.
And sausages.
Yeah, many things come to mind when you think of France.
And the Louvre.
Oh, yes, of course. 자, scratch and sniff postage stamps입니다. 우표는 우표인데요. scratch and sniff라는 걸 한번 볼게요.
Yeah, so this was a phrase that's been used, I think, back since the 1950s, maybe, when it first became a gimmick. There were movies that would have scratch and sniff cards. So as
Right.
you watched the movie at a particular scene, you would scratch one square on the card and it would emit a fragrance that would, I don't know, give you a new experience, give you an idea of the smell of the scene. So yes, so it's something that you scratch and you get a smell from it.
Exactly. 이게 하나의 표현으로 중간중간 하이픈으로 묶여 있어요. scratch는 긁는 거고 그다음에 sniff는 이렇게 냄새를 맡는 겁니다. 그래서 우표를 이렇게 손가락으로 살살 긁으면 이 향이 나요. 그거를 이제 scratch and sniff라는 하나의 표현으로 묘사하고 있습니다.
Yeah, I think for people our age or older, you
Yeah.
might remember in the magazines where they would have scratch and sniff perfume samples.
Oh yes. Don't they have that anymore?
I don't buy magazines, so
Well, nor do I, so I wouldn't know. 그러네요. 그 요즘도 있지 않을까 싶은데 가끔 이제 향수 샘플로 이렇게 긁으면은 향이 나는
네.
마트 같은 데도 가면은 가끔 이제 차량 방향제 같은 거 이렇게 긁으면 냄새가 나게끔 테스터로 이렇게 전시해 놓는 것 같아요.
But I don't want a perfume scratch and sniff. I want a baguette scratch and
baguette.
sniff.
Yeah, I've never ever thought of having a sort of bread smelling thing. So this is interesting.
But yeah, and delicious.
네. 우리 청취자분들 중에 혹시 파리에서 듣고 계신, 프랑스에서 듣고 계신 분 중에 요 우표 구할 수 있으면은 실제로 바게트 향이 나는지 알려주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 너무 좋네요. Scratch and sniff, postage stamps 받고 그 다음에는 it's all about this artisan baguette.
Yes. So we use this term artisan. The other term that's interchangeable is artisanal. There's just an AL on the end. And it means that it's made by hand, that it's crafted with skill, and that it's traditional. So, for example, I would say the best kimchi in Korea is going to be artisan kimchi. It's kimchi that's made with love, that's made by hand, that contains traditional ingredients. And the same with artisan baguettes. I love an artisan baguette.
아티산이 사람한테 말할 때는 장인이거든요. 근데 여기서는 이제 형용사로 바게트를 꾸며주고 있는데 장인이 만든 전통 방식으로 만든 바게트. 그것을 기념하기 위한 우표. 이 말을 하려고 이제 쭉 설명을 하고 있는 거죠. artisanal이라고 할 수도 있습니다.
네.
자, here's the headline again. France has issued scratch-and-sniff postage stamps that smell like a bakery to celebrate the country's artisan baguette.